Imagine a world that is unrecognizable. It is roughly 231 million years ago, during the Late Triassic. There are no flowering plants, no grass, and the continents we know today are smashed together into the supercontinent Pangaea. In the valley of what is now the Ishkigalasto Formation in northwestern Argentina, the air is thick, dry, and smells of dust and volcanic ash. This was the world of the Moon Valley. It was a landscape of extremes, braided river systems cutting through arid floodplains, punctuated by sudden, violent seasonal floods. But if you were to stand there, you wouldn't see the giants we usually associate with dinosaurs. There were no Brachiosaurus shaking the earth, no T-Rex roaring in the distance. In fact, dinosaurs weren't the kings of this world yet. They were the underdogs, the small players in a dangerous game dominated by formidable reptiles called crurotarsans, the ancient relatives of crocodiles. These predators, like the massive Saurosuchus, reached lengths of 20 feet and were the apex terrors of the Triassic. Among the ferns and the towering conifers, something else was moving. It was small, quick, and light on its feet. It didn't look like a conqueror, it looked like a survivor. This was Eoraptor lunensis, the dawn thief of the moon. At only about 1 meter in length and weighing no more than a modern beagle, it lived in the shadows of giants. The story of Eoraptor is the story of a humble beginning. It possessed a unique combination of traits: 5-fingered hands with claws for grasping, and a body built for speed. While the heavy-set reptiles of the era relied on sheer bulk and power, Eoraptor relied on agility. It was an opportunistic generalist, darting through the underbrush to snatch up insects, small lizards, or succulent plants. As the sun set over the jagged Triassic horizon, casting long shadows across the dusty basin, this little creature had no way of knowing that its lineage would eventually produce the largest land animals to ever walk the earth. It was simply trying to survive the night. But the stage was being set. The planet was changing, and a series of environmental shifts were about to favor the small, the fast, and the adaptable. The dawn of the dinosaurs wasn't a sudden explosion of dominance. It was a slow, quiet crawl. Eoraptor represents that first tentative step into a new era. It was a biological pioneer, a creature that held the blueprint for everything that was to come. In this 10-minute opening, we witness the calm before the storm, the final days of the old reptilian order, and the rise of a tiny thief that would eventually steal the world. The year was 1991. The location, the rugged, wind-swept badlands of the Ishkigalasto Basin in Argentina. To the casual observer, this place, known as the Valley of the Moon, looks like a desolate alien planet, a graveyard of striped red and gray clay. But to a team of paleontologists led by Ricardo Martinez and Paul Sereno, it was a time capsule waiting to be cracked open. The expedition wasn't just a casual hike, it was a high-stakes search for the origins of the dinosaur lineage. For decades, the dawn of the dinosaurs was a murky period in the fossil record, filled with fragments and half-told stories. The team was looking for a smoking gun, a specimen complete enough to tell the whole tale. The moment of discovery happened almost by accident.
Ricardo Martinez was scouting a slope of Triassic rock when he spotted something pale catching the harsh desert sunlight. It wasn't just a fragment or a weathered tooth. As he brushed away the loose sediment, he realized he was looking at a nearly perfect articulated skull. In the world of paleontology, finding a skull is like finding a diamond. Finding one attached to a nearly complete skeleton is like winning the lottery. The team spent days painstakingly jacketing it in plaster to protect it. Back in the lab, as the rock was slowly chipped away with dental picks and air scribes, the true significance of the find emerged. This wasn't just another reptile. It was a creature that sat at the very root of the dinosaur family tree. Its bones were light and hollow, a classic dinosaur trait, but its features were incredibly primitive. Naming it was an act of poetic precision. They called it Eoraptor lunensis, the dawn of treasures from the Moon Valley. Eo for the dawn of the dinosaur era, raptor for its predatory grasping hands, and lunensis for the lunar-like landscape where it had slept for 231 million years. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community. It moved the clock back, proving that dinosaurs had already begun to diversify into distinct forms much earlier than previously thought. But more importantly, it gave us a face. For the first time, we could look into the eye sockets of a creature that lived before the world belonged to dinosaurs. This 1991 breakthrough didn't just add a new name to the textbooks, it redefined our understanding of how the greatest biological empire in Earth's history began its humble, dusty ascent. If you were to hold a life-sized model of Eoraptor, you would be struck by how lightweight and bird-like it feels. This wasn't a lumbering monster. It was a creature of precision. Standing about a foot tall at the hips and stretching 3 feet from nose to tail, Eoraptor was built for a life of high-speed opportunism. To understand why this animal is so vital to science, we have to look closely at the blueprint written in its bones, a blueprint that would eventually be scaled up to create the giants of the Jurassic. First, look at the hands. Unlike the heavy, pillared limbs of the reptiles that came before it, Eoraptor had long, functional fingers. It possessed 5 digits in total, but the first 3 were equipped with sharp, curved claws. These were grasping hands, designed to snatch up moving prey or perhaps pull down low-hanging vegetation. This manual dexterity was a hallmark of early dinosaurs, giving them an edge in a world where most predators killed only with their jaws. Then there is the skull, perhaps the most debated part of its anatomy. When scientists peered into its mouth, they found something fascinating: heterodonty. This means Eoraptor had different types of teeth in different parts of its jaw. In the front, the teeth were serrated and curved like steak knives, perfect for slicing meat. But toward the back, the teeth became leaf-shaped, a trait almost exclusively seen in herbivores for grinding plant matter. This suggests Eoraptor was the ultimate generalist, an omnivore that wasn't picky about its next meal. Its skeletal structure also reveals the secret to its survival: bipedalism. Eoraptor walked on its hind legs, with its long, stiff tail acting as a counterbalance. This upright posture allowed it to see over low brush, and, more importantly, it freed up the front limbs for hunting. Its bones were thin-walled and hollow, reducing its weight to a mere 22 pounds. In the Triassic arms race, Eoraptor didn't choose heavy armor or massive size. It chose speed and versatility. Every inch of this dawn thief reflects a transition. It carries the primitive traits of its reptilian ancestors, like a simple hip structure, but it also displays the advanced features that define a dinosaur. It was a biological Swiss Army knife, a creature capable of adapting to a shifting environment while its more specialized neighbors struggled to keep up. As we look at these bones, we aren't just looking at a small predator. We are looking at the foundational architecture of a dynasty.
If you ask a paleontologist exactly what Eoraptor is, you might start a friendly but heated debate. While it is undeniably one of the earliest dinosaurs, placing it on a specific branch of the family tree is like trying to find the exact point where a river turns into the sea. In the world of taxonomy, the science of naming and grouping living things, Eoraptor is a basal creature, meaning it sits so close to the beginning that it possesses characteristics of several different groups at once. For years after its discovery, Eoraptor was hailed as the ultimate primitive theropod. Theropods are the beast-footed dinosaurs, the lineage that includes Allosaurus, Tyrannosaurus rex, and modern birds. It had the sharp claws, the bipedal stance, and the predatory look of a miniature killer. Its name, Dawn Thief, reflects this early assumption. Scientists saw a small, fast hunter and naturally placed it at the base of the meat-eating dynasty. However, as more fossils were discovered in South America and our understanding of dinosaur evolution deepened, a new and startling theory emerged. Some researchers began to notice that Eoraptor shared subtle, specialized features with a completely different group, the sauropodomorphs. These are the ancestors of the long-necked giants like Diplodocus and Apatosaurus. The evidence lies in the details. Eoraptor has a slightly enlarged nostril and certain bone connections in the thumb and jaw that are characteristic of early long-necked herbivores. This created a scientific paradox. How could a small, sharp-toothed thief be the grandfather of the largest plant-eating land animals to ever live? This puzzle highlights the beauty of evolution. At the very beginning, the differences between a meat-eater and a plant-eater were almost invisible. Eoraptor represents a generalist body plan. It was the common ancestor's template, a flexible design that could eventually be tweaked by natural selection into a 3-ton predator or a 30-ton herbivore. Today, most paleontologists agree that Eoraptor is likely a very early member of the sauropodomorph lineage, or perhaps something even more primitive that predates the split entirely. It serves as a biological Rosetta Stone, a key that allows us to translate how one form of life slowly, over millions of years, morphed into another. It reminds us that in the beginning, the giants of the future were all starting from the same humble, adaptable place. As we reach the final minutes of our journey, we must look at the big picture. What does a 1-meter-long, 22-pound creature from Argentina really matter in the grand scale of Earth's history? The answer lies in the sheer audacity of what came next. Eoraptor was not a dead end, it was a starting gun. By the end of the Triassic, a massive series of volcanic eruptions began to tear the supercontinent Pangaea apart. This environmental catastrophe, known as the End Triassic extinction, wiped out the massive crocodile-like Curotarsans that had kept dinosaurs in the shadows for millions of years. When the dust settled, the world was empty, and the descendants of Eoraptor were the only ones left with the right toolkit to fill the void. The legacy of Eoraptor is visible in every corner of the Mesozoic era.
Its lightweight bipedal frame was the blueprint that led to the terrifying speed of Velociraptor and the multi-ton power of Tyrannosaurus rex. Its flexible, omnivorous diet and specialized thumb were the evolutionary seeds that grew into the sauropods, the long-necked titans like Argentinosaurus that would eventually reach 100 feet in length and weigh as much as a fleet of airplanes. But the legacy goes even deeper. Because Eoraptor was a dinosaur, and because one branch of dinosaurs, the theropods, survived the asteroid impact 66 million years ago, a part of Eoraptor is still with us today. Every time you see a sparrow on a fence or a hawk circling in the sky, you are looking at the distant, refined version of that dawn thief from the Moon Valley. The hollow bones, the efficient breathing, and the bipedal stance were all pioneered by this small Triassic survivor. Eoraptor teaches us that greatness doesn't always begin with a roar. It begins with adaptability. It begins with being small enough to hide, fast enough to run, and smart enough to eat whatever the world offers. For 165 million years, dinosaurs would rule the earth, and it all started with a creature no bigger than a dog darting through the dust of Argentina. As our 50-minute exploration comes to a close, we leave the Moon Valley behind. We leave the dawn thief in its desert home, knowing that while it was just a small player in its own time, it held the keys to a kingdom that would define the history of life on Earth.